My name is Robert Penley, and I'm a gastroenterologist. I graduated medical school in 1976 and finished fellowship in 1981 and have been a practicing gastroenterologist ever since then. Colon cancer and colon cancer screening occupies a great deal of interest and causes a lot of anxiety among the population. It consumes a lot of resources, and it's a great time to talk about this because March is annually Colon Cancer Awareness Month. So screening for colon cancer is one of the principal things that gastroenterologists do. Routine screening usually takes the form of either doing stool testing on a repetitive basis, or if you're of average risk, which means no known family history of colon polyps or colon cancer, then an initial screening study at age 45. And if you're going to do endoscopic screening, such as colonoscopy, that can be done essentially every 10 years as long as the colonoscopy on a well-prepped colon is negative and there's no development of family history in the interval. So it can be done at 10-year intervals if you're going to do endoscopic screening. If you're going to do stool testing, it has to be done more frequently than that. Stool testing for blood have to be done essentially every year. Stool testing for abnormal fecal DNA produced by a company with a trade name of Cologuard, and that's generally done about every 3 years.
Colon cancer is on the rise in younger populations. Is there any way to mitigate risk factors, or are there any symptoms of colon cancer that people should be aware of?
Early on, colon cancer has very few symptoms and very few signs. Symptoms in later and more advanced cases could include things like rectal bleeding, abdominal or rectal pain, unexplained weight loss, an anemia that's otherwise unexplained. You know you're at risk if you have a family history of either colon cancer or colon polyps. And you are correct in that we are seeing colon cancer in younger age groups. In fact, within the last 2 years, recommendations for the United States Preventive Task Force has recommended that we now begin screening adults at age 45. That age at screening has become younger and younger in the last 25 years. We don't know why there has been a decrease in age at risk, now down to 45. Certainly diet may play a role. And one of the things that is thought to be helpful would be limiting red meat intake to no more than twice a week, because we know that colon cancer and colon polyps, which are pre-malignant lesions, have a higher incidence in industrialized first world countries in which the dietary intake of fiber is less, and the consumption of fatty foods and other types of foods which contain possible carcinogens is higher. There is a positive correlation between smoking and several types of cancer, including colon cancer. And exercise is always a good idea. And we do know that in a population in which fitness is higher, there's generally a positive correlation with a reduced risk of several different kinds of cancer. I'd like to tell you about my friend Benny, who was a real estate agent for me and a fellow singer in choir, and just generally one of the nicest people you would ever want to meet. And one day, Benny said, "Do I need to be screened for colon cancer?" And Benny was about early 60s at that point. And I said, "Absolutely." So we set it up. Benny had no symptoms. His lab tests were normal. And we were all happy about Benny's decision to be screened. We examined Benny via colonoscopy, which is the standard method of screening. And unfortunately, Benny had an advanced colon cancer in the right side of his colon. And I had to tell Benny he had trouble. Within 10 months, Benny left us. The cancer took Benny, and he took part of my heart with him. If Benny had been screened earlier, then that situation probably could have been prevented. And that's the tragedy of waiting. So get screened. Colon cancer is preventable with early screening. And colonoscopy is very well tolerated. Stool tests are easy. So don't wait. Get screened.